Hi guys, it's Marshall here with this week's Sanity Check. This week, I want to discuss emotional availability and what that looks like. Frequently, and especially when we're dating, this is a problem that tends to come up pretty quick. We're dating someone and they ghost us, poof, they're gone. Or they suddenly withdraw. Or we find a persistent hot-cold interaction with them where they're really interested in us in specific ways, often sexual or affectionate ways, and then outside of that context, they're gone. Where the hell did they go? That kind of thing. Emotional availability is about an individual being receptive to the other person. So emotional available people are open to being influenced. They're willing to take feedback from the other person. They're willing to consider that person's point of view and work towards a compromise or a collaborative agreement that would give both of them the desired outcome that they're seeking. That outcome typically is more emotional than it is technical or physical outcome. They're also willing to handle and face conflict. So differences in conflict aren't a big problem for them. They're willing to do that in kind and loving and direct ways. They're vulnerable. They're safely and reasonably vulnerable. They show up. They're willing to discuss what's going on with them, what they feel, what they want, what they need. They take responsibility. So they're willing to be held accountable for the mistakes they make and the challenges that they're having. And they're willing to improve their skills and grow. Emotionally unavailable people love to blame. They love to be the victim. They love to avoid conflict. They're going to go passive-aggressive or completely avoid it on you. Generally, they're not going to ask for what they want. They may even demand what they want, or they'll just be like, whatever, and just completely disengage. Sometimes they even want to control things and manipulate things. Often you'll notice with people who are emotionally unavailable that things happen according to their schedule, not yours. So when you ask for something like time or affection or a date or whatever it might be, they're not available. But when they want the thing, they're right there. So they don't really consider or accommodate your wants, needs, and feelings. So emotionally unavailable people are pretty common. They're all around us, especially if we're single, we're dating, they're everywhere. And these people are dealing with poor skill sets in managing their emotions, dominantly shame or grief or anxiety. And they have really poor relational skills like communication, conflict management, being able to empathically communicate what they're feeling, and then active listening and reflection. These are signals in relationships that are very important to understand. People who are unavailable emotionally are unavailable for healthy relationships across the board. Emotional availability tells you what kind of future experience you're going to have with this individual. And it can give you something you can predict the future on. Because people generally don't radically change over time. A lot of times if they're unavailable now and they get into a comfortable situation in a relationship, they ain't going to change. Change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. So most people don't want to change. They're not going to deliberately pursue change, so you get these kind of problems. It's really important that you understand that emotional availability is based on a behavior and a long-term track record, a pattern in which these people act. So sometimes they're going to be hot, which means maybe in certain circumstances they're really interested. But outside of that, they're not. And you begin to see that as a pattern. It's like, well, when we're alone, you really want time and affection, and you're really giving me all these verbal affirmations or physical touch or whatever it might be. And outside of that, you're gone. You're silent. That's the hot and cold phase of unavailability. And that's usually where people get most confused. They think, well, they're really good here. Yeah, but that's the hot side of the cold pan. So you got to be really, really honest with yourself about looking at it. When you're not sure, you write down the behaviors. And then linked below is kind of a checklist. It's a cheat sheet that you can compare those behaviors to, and you go, oh, maybe they're not available because most of their behaviors fall in the unavailable category. So be deliberate with yourself when you're interacting with people to see if their words follow their talk. Healthy people are going to have a sense of integrity. For the most part, 8 times out of 10, their words and their actions are going to line up. And when they don't, they're going to own it. And they're going to work to improve so that they can be more consistent and more genuine. People who do not do that are people you want to be very, very cautious with. They're not the types you need in your life because they'll end up being toxic, deficient, and they'll use you, especially if you're in the people pleaser category. So I want you to take time to evaluate your relationships according to the checklist I've linked below and give yourself the opportunity to see if you're in an unavailable relationship and to exit it so that you can find someone who's truly available. Okay? So that's this week's Sanity Check. Check in to see how available your relationships are, including yourself with them. And let's see what you discover. Thank you for your time this week, guys. Have a great holiday, and we'll talk next week. And the holiday means the whole season. Yay. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.